Rain hissed against the metal walls of the shanty town. The neon lights of the human trade district flickered through the haze, painting the rusted corrugated roofs in sickly pink and blue. Amidst the shadowed alleys, two alien girls huddled beneath a broken awning, sisters from the Lasari race, once known for their luminous skin and song-like voices. Now, they were refugees on a human world that had already forgotten their names. Lyra held her younger sister close, wrapping her in the torn remains of her cloak. "Shh," she whispered. "Don't cry, Mira. I'll find something to eat soon." Myra's eyes, once glowing silver, were dim from hunger. Her ribs showed through her soft violet skin. "I'm so hungry, Lyra," she whimpered. "My belly hurts." Lyra swallowed hard, blinking back tears. Around them, humans passed by without a glance. Some spat when they saw alien faces. Others smirked, whispering words she couldn't understand but didn't need to. Their tone was enough. It had been 3 days since they'd eaten. The supply ships had stopped coming to the slum markets, and the last of their coins had gone to pay the security fee to the local gang. Lyra had begged, worked where she could, but no one hired Lasari anymore, not after the war. They were seen as the enemy, the beaten, the outcasts. And Mira was only 8. Lyra stared at the distant glow of the trade dome. Inside, food was piled high for the wealthy humans and aliens who could afford it. She would never get past the guards unless she had something to offer. Something more valuable than money. Her trembling hand reached up to touch the thin silver chain around her neck, the last relic of their mother. Then she looked down at Mira, who was curled up on her lap, lips pale and eyes half closed. That was when Lyra made her choice. The rain had stopped by the time she entered the trade district. Guards in gray armor scanned her with cold eyes as she walked barefoot down the market street. Her thin dress clung to her, soaked and threadbare. She caught glimpses of roasted meats, piles of fruit, and steaming breads that made her dizzy with hunger. At the far end of the street stood the Human Exchange Office, a place where desperate aliens came to sell labor, or worse, themselves. A holographic sign above the door flickered with the words, "Contract servants wanted. Good pay. Legal under accord law." Lyra took a deep breath and stepped inside. The room smelled of metal and sweat. Behind a counter sat a bored human clerk, scrolling through hollow forms. "Name, species, age," he asked without looking up. "Lyra of Lysar," she whispered. 19 cycles. The man's eyes flicked up at that. Lasari were rare now. "You here for a labor contract?" Lyra hesitated. "For a personal one." He leaned back, smirking. "You understand what that means?" She nodded once. Her hands trembled, but her voice stayed steady. "I just need food. Enough for 2. My sister's starving." The clerk sighed, tapped his screen, and called out, "Hey, Harper. Got another one for you. Lasari, young, clean enough." A tall man stepped out from the back room, a human in a dark coat, with gray at his temples and a mechanical implant over his left eye. His name was Elias Harper, owner of several cargo docks in the district, and known for buying indenture contracts. He looked Lyra over, expression unreadable. "You understand this isn't charity," he said quietly. "Yes," Lyra said. "I'll work. I'll do whatever you ask." He watched her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Come with me." Lyra followed Harper through the maze of corridors into a storage area filled with food crates. Her mouth watered as she smelled dried grain and preserved meat. He stopped beside a crate and opened it. "Take this," he said. "Enough for a month if you ration it." Lyra blinked in confusion. "You're giving this to me?" "You said your sister was starving," Harper replied. "Bring it to her. Then come back." Lyra hesitated. You mean I'm not staying here? I don't buy people, he said flatly. If you want work, I'll give it. But no one belongs to anyone here. Lyra stared at him, stunned. She didn't know whether to thank him or cry. She bowed deeply instead, then lifted the crate in trembling arms and ran back through the rain. Myra's eyes widened when she saw the food. Lyra, where did you? It doesn't matter, Lyra said, smiling through tears.
Eat.
As much as you want. They ate until they couldn't move, laughing and crying at once. Lyra told her that a kind human had helped, and for the first time in weeks, Mira smiled in her sleep that night. The next morning, Lyra kept her promise. She returned to Harper's docks. Workers, mostly humans, stared at her as she entered. Some muttered under their breath, but Harper's gaze silenced them. You came back, he said simply. I said I would, she replied. He handed her a data pad. We run a loading crew here. You'll handle manifest entry and light maintenance. I'll pay in food credits and lodging. Lyra bowed her head. Thank you, sir. He gave a faint smile. Don't call me sir, just Harper. Days turned to weeks. Lyra worked harder than anyone else, learning quickly how to operate the human machinery, how to read their trade codes, how to manage shipments. Harper noticed. He also noticed how she saved half her food to bring home to Mira every night, and how she always thanked the warehouse AI for opening the doors, a small gesture most humans ignored. One evening, after the last cargo lift had settled, Harper called her to his office. You were willing to sell yourself, he said quietly, to feed your sister. Lyra lowered her eyes. There was no other choice. There's always a choice, he said. She shook her head. Not for us. Not for aliens who have nothing. You humans think in choices. We think in survival. Harper leaned back, studying her. You're right, he admitted. Most wouldn't have done what I did, either. Why did you? She asked softly. He hesitated, then said, because once I saw a child starve on a mining world while people argued over who should help. I swore never to watch that again. Something in his voice made Lyra's throat tighten. Then thank you, she whispered. That night, Mira waited for her sister outside their shack. Lyra arrived carrying a small bundle, warm clothes and medicine. Harper gave me these, she said, smiling. For you. Mira hugged her tightly. Is he a good man? Lyra thought about that for a moment. He's a human, she said. But maybe that can mean something good too. A month later, riots broke out in the lower districts. The gangs that ruled the slums began raiding food shipments. When Harper's dock was attacked, Lyra was there. Humans and aliens alike fled as blaster fire filled the air. Get down, Harper shouted, pulling her behind a crate. I have to get Mira, Lyra screamed. You'll never make it through the streets alone. Then come with me, she pleaded. Harper hesitated only a second, then nodded. Together they fought their way through the burning alleys, Harper covering her with his rifle, Lyra guiding him through side routes she knew by heart. They reached her home just as the fire spread through the shanty town. Mira was trapped inside. Without thinking, Lyra rushed in. The roof collapsed behind her, and Harper dove in after her. Smoke filled his lungs, his vision blurred. But then he saw them, Lyra holding Mira in her arms. He grabbed them both and carried them out into the rain. Lyra coughed, gasping for breath, but Mira was safe. Harper collapsed beside them, coughing up soot. You came back, Lyra whispered. He smiled weakly. Couldn't let you have all the heroics. The next morning, the sun rose over ruins. The slums were gone, but so was the hunger. Harper had arranged transport for the survivors to new housing on the northern plains, including Lyra and Mira. When they stood at the loading bay, Lyra turned to him. We owe you everything. You owe me nothing, Harper said. Just promise me you'll keep her safe. Lyra smiled faintly. Then promise me something too. He raised an eyebrow. What's that? That you'll stop thinking humans are the only ones who can save others. Harper laughed softly.
Deal.
As the transport lifted into the bright sky, Mira pressed her small hand to the window. Do you think we'll ever see him again? Lyra looked at the fading figure of a human who had given them life again and said, I think he'll find us someday. Humans always do when it matters most. And for the first time since their world had burned, the sisters believed in hope again.